And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Yandea, who had a near-death experience due to losing at least 40% of her blood, which we're going to learn about and more. Yandea, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you.
Well, let's just start on the day that this happened to you and go from there.
Sure. So on January 15th, this year, 2024, I suffered a miscarriage, and I actually went to the hospital and then had the miscarriage at the hospital. And while I was there, this is where I actually had two near-death experiences, one on the 15th when I first went to the hospital, and then the other was when I got home. So after seeing the doctor, I went to the washroom, before leaving to go back home, and I started feeling my hands and my feet were like very, very cold and then numb. I couldn't feel them anymore. So I exited the washroom and I said to my husband, I think I'm gonna pass out. But he said I actually never said anything. I guess I thought I said it. But he ended up catching me and putting me onto like this chair that was there. And that's the last I knew of that at that point. What I experienced was being in this place that was totally just dark. It felt like I was at the bottom. I don't know if you could imagine like being at the bottom of a pool at nighttime and there were like no lights, like a really huge pool. So there was nothing else there, which is why I'm saying a pool, because like an ocean would give you the idea of like things there, but I didn't feel any other presence there. It was just me in this darkness. And what gave me the feeling of water was like I could move in this place and I could look above me and I could see this kind of a circular shape. And when I looked through it, it looked like there were waves. So that's why I always feel like it was water, because as I went towards this light, I could see clearly my husband on the other side. So it's like if I'm under here in this vastness of darkness, right above here, let's say there's a little hole and there's some light coming in from this space, and I'm just going up into it, right? And so I was seeing my husband clearly, and he's like he's looking down into this hole, like he's not seeing me, but I'm seeing him. And with my mind, it felt like I was kind of like swimming upwards, but I wasn't swimming. I was just going, you know, propelling myself towards him. And when I would get there, it's like I just couldn't go through. I couldn't pass this barrier.
Do you think that you were out of your body in some other realm?
It felt absolutely, absolutely. It felt like I was in a different, it felt like he was in one realm and I was in I absolutely felt like that. That is a great way to explain it, because wherever he was, I would try to get into it and I could not. And I remember like going, like getting very tired trying to get out of where I was. And the funny thing about it is that I could only see through this place where the light was, and everything else was darkness. But I could perceive clearly that there was a male nurse that was further down. I don't know what to call it, down this way, but like further down, like down the hall. And I could tell that he was coming towards me, and I could tell, I could sense everything happening around me, but I could only see through this one space. And and I still remember my husband's face, like looking down, at me and just unaware that I could see him. And then finally I did this for a while and I just couldn't anymore. And I just like went down into the darkness. And then after a while, I remember feeling like I was waking up. And I went, it's like I was going back into this light, but this time I was coming out, and the coming out was like my eyes were just opening. And that was happening for a while. Then I started tuning into the voices. I remember the nurse saying, like, are you back with us? Are you back? Are you back with us? And I didn't respond to her, but I started now feeling my hands, feeling my body again. And that's when I came back into myself, you know. they put me on a stretcher, and then they brought me into a room, and they were checking my blood pressure. It was really low. When it got to around like 90, they said I was stable enough to leave, but I had to go in a wheelchair. So we went home, and then when I got home, we just came right onto the couch, and I was resting, but I just did not stop bleeding. I was hemorrhaging a lot, and I had had miscarriages in the past. So I knew I have 5 living children now. I've had all natural births, so I know, what it's the process is supposed to be like. And even through having miscarriages in the past, I know what that was like. So I knew at this moment whatever I was experiencing was not normal. And I kept saying to my husband, like, this is not right. This is not normal. And I was literally passing, like the blood was coming out in like huge, I hope this is not too graphic, but like huge like chunks. And it was just like my body was just doing this over and over. And I just could feel myself getting weaker and weaker. And at a certain point, my husband says, like, let me bring you into the bedroom. And I remember just like attempting to raise myself, like just attempting to lift myself. And immediately I felt the same cold feeling coming back upon me. And I I just said to him, it's happening again, right? And I remember feeling very afraid because I knew that wherever I went, I did not know how to get out of that place. And I didn't want to experience it again. So I was telling him, like, it's happening again. And he grabbed the phone to call for the ambulance. And I went back. But this time I didn't go back into that place, like the water place. I went I went into this, it was dark again, but not a scary darkness. None of it is a scary darkness. It's just nothing is there.
You say none of it's a scary darkness, but even during the first time, were you afraid down there or were you calm?
The first time when it happened, it was just that I was stuck. I was not afraid of the darkness. It was a fear of, like, I'm in a place that I don't know how to get out of. That was the feeling, like that loss of, I guess control in a sense, right? Like I want to be where my husband is, and I can't get past this barrier. And he was like right there. But so now when it happened again, I was no longer in that place. I was actually in, it was just like a vast, you can't even really tell how big the space is, to be honest with you, because the focus when you're in that realm is not a, at least for me, it wasn't about, where am I? It was just, I had a knowledge of what was happening in front of me. I don't really know how I knew it, but I knew that I knew where I was, and I knew that it was okay. And there was a presence with me that I never saw, but I could feel it around me. And I could feel that whoever was with me was orchestrating, like orchestrating what was happening. I felt very, very safe. Like somehow I knew where I was. And so what I saw was like my life. I saw from my incarnation here in this life. I saw from, like, it came across, like, if you could think of like slides, but it was light. And I could see, like, in each slide I could see a portion of my life. So it just started like on this side, and it was just going like this, like all the way across. But it was like from the time I was born and then keep going. And it went by really fast, but I could understand everything that was being shown to me. And the parts that were highlighted were just how good my life was, like all the good things that I had done. So, I saw myself doing readings for people, helping, healings, and I saw myself loving my family and friends, and all this. I just saw all of these good things that I was doing. And, I had such a warm feeling inside myself, like, yeah, like, wow, like I did great. I had that feeling. And then I did not see hands, but I perceived hands. I know it sounds weird, but the same way, like you would, if you had to like gather all your stuff, on a table, and you just gathered, this is the energy that was around me. Like like hands coming to gather, right? So from behind me, it's like this energy just came and I could feel it like it was gonna gather. I knew what was happening. It was gonna gather these frames together. And and I had a feeling like, okay, we're gonna see like how good I did. You know, I had that knowing. And it's like I had maybe done this before, like I knew what was happening. And so when this, I'm gonna say hands, although I didn't see hands, right? When it came and brought everything together in front, because it was all spread in front of me, it brought it all together. Everything just came together and then just went like just disappeared. And I remember feeling like, what? Like how is this possible? Nothing is, none of this counts. Like I remember thinking that, right? Like none of this counts. Somehow I knew what was happening in this area and what was supposed to happen.
Is it possible that you were feeling like, wow, none of this even matters?
None of it, yes, like none of it counted, is like none of it had any weight, is actually what I felt. Like none of this has any weight. Right? And and then I remember, and I always say like I'm not happy, about this thought, but I remember thinking, even being a vegetarian, because I at this point I had been a vegetarian for 12 years, right? And I remember it really stood out to me because I was thinking, okay, everything else, I get it because, it's most high, using my vessel, working through me, whether guides or whatever. Okay, I get it, you know, but I chose to be a vegetarian and it was a sacrifice that I was making. How could it not be good? Like, how could it not have any weight? I love food, And so that was just so puzzling. And at the very moment, like, it's so weird how things happen. Like, as soon as you think something, the answer is already in your head. So as soon as I had that thought, like, how could that not have been good? As soon as I had that thought, the answer came immediately into my head. Well, why did you do it? You know, it was like immediately I knew that the fact that I was even having that thought meant that I didn't have the right, I'm going to say, like, the right heart. You understand, when I was doing it. So I just kind of like let that go immediately because I understood at that moment that it really has nothing to do with the actions so much as like where your heart is when you're doing these certain things, right? So I think like at that point in my life, I had probably given myself a lot of credit as, oh, I'm a good person because I'm not, eating these animals or whatever. And I think that consciously I thought of myself as maybe better, in some way, as doing good. And that experience was like, no.
Hmm.
So that was just so shocking for me.
Did you continue being vegetarian after the experience, or did you change your reasoning?
Yeah. Well, after that experience, um, I, like we mentioned, right, I had lost over 40% of my blood, and they wanted to give me a whole bunch of like blood transfusions and stuff. And I was like, well, what are my options, right? Because I don't really know much about things, and I just feel like, is there any way I could do this naturally? Like, is there any way I could build back my blood naturally? And like they were suggesting, like there's different forms of iron and the quickest way to do it, whatever. So I believe heme iron is the one that comes from animals, right? So I, at this point, I think when I went into the hospital, I was at when they first took my blood, at I was registering at 144, and I had dropped down to, I think, 70. So like clinically or medically anemic, because I think is when you're at 110, and I had gone from 144 down to 70. So I was in a very bad situation. So I decided to take the iron pills that they had given me, which was heme iron. So already at that point, I was now no longer plant-based. And what the doctors had told me is that there was some placenta that was still there, a small portion, and that there was a possibility that when it would come out, I would go through the exact same thing, and I would not be able to survive it because I just don't have enough blood in my body to bleed out like I just did. So I decided to use, use animal products like liver and whatever would give me the most iron. I was like, I am going to build back my blood. And the most important thing to me right now is to be alive and to do things right. That was my that's the only thing I cared about after that, because that was still just the first, portion of it, right?
Right. I'm sorry I distracted you. So
Yeah.
you were in your life review.
I just want to say the thing about it is that it's not the right choice. It's that whenever you do something and you feel that doing this makes me good, that was the problem. I thought that doing this would give me some points.
What's so amazing about you saying that is that many near death experiencers will tell you that it is the small acts of kindness that matter. And to me, that means
Yes,
they're not, I don't know if premeditated is the right
yes,
word, but I think
yes.
that's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. So whether somebody wants to eat meat or you want to eat vegetables, the question is, you know, where is your heart when you're doing this, right? Because a lot of animals, a lot of animals die in the process of bringing vegetables to our table, and animals die in the process of bringing meat to your table. So none of our hands are clean, right? All of our hands have blood on them. Some way or another, to get food into our body, we are killing something. So the question is just, where is your heart, right? So I actually started, and this is something it's just coming to me, so I'm going to mention it. I realized that when I started back eating meat, I actually started praying over my food. And that's something I used to do as a practice way back. And then when I started becoming a vegetarian, it's like I stopped praying over my food. Like, oh, I don't know why. I just realized it after. It's like all of a sudden, now that there was, I guess, a being on my plate, it was so obvious to see that life was taken for me to live. Right. And so I started, like praying over my food, not really so much so like cleanse this food for me, but just giving thanks for this life that lived, that is now giving me life, right? Or helping to give me life. So I just got such a deeper gratitude, for plants and animals, alike. Um, but all of that to say, I just want to make it clear that eating meat doesn't make you good. Eating vegetables don't make you good. None of it does. You don't get points for either. You're not gonna be asked that question, you
Right.
know? So yeah, so from there, I kind of came back into my body. So this whole period of being at home was in and out of my body, like losing consciousness, coming back and forth. And what it felt like was I was fighting for my life. It felt like I was fighting to stay in my body, right? Like the pull of being in that realm was so strong because it it's more real in a sense than here, right? And what I mean by that is when you're there, everything is plain. Like there is no lies, there's no lie, there's no falsehood, there's no fabrication. So you know that you're in truth, you're in the real place, And so um coming back over here, I know this is where my family is, and I obviously want to be here with my husband and my children. I never planned. I mean, I'm only 41, and I never thought that I have so much ahead of me. I never thought that this would be happening to me now, right? And so I remember when I came, one of the times when I went back into that realm, it was when I was shown, I was in the same place, but it was not the life review anymore. All of a sudden, the room was just filled with people. I mean, I did not know that I had met that many people in my life, but the room was filled with people as far as I could look this way, as far as I could look that way. And I understood exactly how they were organized. Like the people furthest to the back, everybody appeared like not in physical form. I could know who they were physically, but they appeared like lights. So the people who were furthest to the back, they were the dimmer lights. And then closer to me had the people who were the brightest lights. And the closest to me were my husband and my 5 children. They were like right in front. And I remember as I looked at them, I could feel their light. And it's in this experience that I came to really understand what love is and everything about love. I know it's dangerous, right? To say I know everything about something, but I really can say that this is where I came to understand, you know, how important love is. I mean, I was sharing with you earlier, right? Like I wish I had a better way to articulate the importance of love because, you always say, oh, it's good to love. God is love is God, all of this stuff. But I mean, love is the only thing that matters. When we leave this realm, the only thing that's going to count is how did you love? Did you give love? Did you receive love? It's only love that's going to matter. That's it. Nothing, none of the fancy stuff, none of the accolades, nothing is going to matter. Just did you love? That's it.
Is it much more than a feeling and emotion? And what I mean by that is like you're saying, did you give love?
Mm.
Does that mean being caring for somebody, or does that mean sacrificing and doing things for people even though you didn't want to? Is that also considered love?
Well, I will answer the question this way. Love is, and this is what I understood. I'll give you a small example. I mentioned I have like 5 children, right? And I saw that um there were times when, because I had a little feeling of, but I love, like I had that thought in my head. And like I said, as soon as you think something, the truth is in your face, right? So I had that thought like, but I love. And then I clearly saw the way that I divide my time and my presence more so than even time. So I saw like my one of my sons would be talking to me like, hey mom, look at this thing. And I would be saying to him, oh, that's really nice. That's really good. Like he's thinking that he has my attention. He's thinking that I really care. Anybody around will say, what a lovely mom. She is so great with her children. But in myself, I am actually saying, okay, yes, it's great. And I'm saying, don't forget you have to do this. Don't forget you have to do that. Right. And the picture may not even be, he may have stuff done wrong in it. And I would just think, oh, it's so great. It's so good. Oh, maybe you should color it this way. Like, there's like an autopilot conversation that we can have with people. The things, oh, say this, say that, and you're not even present. And so when I saw that example, I understood immediately. It was like the deepest conviction ever. I didn't need any more examples to help me to understand what I will say was being revealed to me. And even sometimes, let's say someone will have a client, because I have clients, and there were times where I would have a client and, you do follow up. So when you call your client, you would say, hey, how are you? Just wanted to know how you're doing and whatever. But you may not necessarily really, want to know that much, but they don't know that you have them down as follow up today. You get what I'm saying? It's just like a courtesy. So we are taught how to be courteous and how to have conversation and how to be, correct in certain situations, what to say. So it's so easy for us to just play the part, right? We're even taught like this is what good people do. And we teach our children that if you're good, you do this. So it's very easy for us to now grow into adults and do all the things that good people do, say all the things that good people say, while in our hearts, we are far from those words, right?
That makes a lot of sense.
We all do it. It's not like we're trying to not love, but we just don't know how to love.
Well, plus in this realm, we're so busy trying to survive
Yes.
that it's
Yes.
easy to be distracted.
Yeah.
I would assume, though, even though you noticed that these points in your life that you weren't acting like maybe you wish you could have, you probably weren't feeling shame or supposed to feel shame about that, were you?
You mean in the experience?
Yeah, like did you feel like were you regretting the way you acted?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
if there were any beings with you, I don't know if there were or were not, but a lot of times there are. And I think that the experiencer usually gets that there's no judgment. It's just this is what happened.
Well, you see, for me, it's not that it was a feeling of judgment. It was that I knew that I came here to love and I failed. I knew it. And I'm not saying this is anybody else's experience, but I knew that, like, when I was there, I knew the most important thing was love. And I could clearly see, like I was mentioning, I was able to see everybody that I had ever interacted with. The room, it was like so filled of people. And I could see exactly how they were like organized, right? And I could tell that the people who had the brightest lights were the people who I loved, who I actually gave my presence to. And that's the thing, it was very clear to me that the reason these people had brighter lights, and I knew that the light was love, the reason why they had brighter lights was because I gave my presence. We shared presence. I knew that. So I'm in this experience saying, like, oh my gosh, like, I know how to love now. And I could see clearly that in my life, I did not love. I did not give my presence to things. I did not give my presence to people. And what I mean by giving the presence is all of yourself, your all of your senses, you know, like if you're talking to your wife or your husband, your children, or whatever you're doing, you got to be in it with your, you got to give it your sight, you got to give, listen, you have to, you know, smell, like all of you got to really be there fully with it. And I could really say that I did not do that. So I now was like, no, no, I gotta go back. And the biggest reason why I wanted to go back is because my family being right in front of me, what started happening as soon as I kind of grasped all the information that was in front of me, I started now going back. Like, so if like I'm right here and they're in front of me, all of a sudden I started being pulled back, right? And in this place didn't have any time, but I could tell that I could kind of perceive how far back I was going. And it felt like I was like 8 years in distance. I could still see them, but they were getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And I was being pulled back from them. And at about the 8 year mark, you know, it's like the light was just so dim. And I knew that they would remember me, and trying not to be emotional, but I could still feel it, right? Whew, but I could tell that they would still remember me, but they wouldn't feel me. And that's when I knew that love is an actual real thing. It's like at that moment, I knew that this is the substance of all things. And, you know, in my regular, you know, life here on earth, I have brought messages from people who have passed, who have transitioned to their loved ones here. So um, I was able to understand, because whenever I'm in that, operating in that capacity, I literally could feel the love of the person who has passed and the love of the person who is here. And all I am is stepping in that channel, right? And I'm communicating that back to the two of them. That's what I'm doing. So I've known always that, oh, I'm just connecting into that love and helping communicate right back and forth. At that, in that experience, I was able to know that if I can develop the love that I have with my family and others more, I could communicate with them for a longer duration of time, even after transitioning. So now I was saying, please send me back, because after 8 years, I won't be able to communicate with them. Like, I knew this very clearly. So my purpose for coming back is to, it seems a little bit selfish, but my purpose for coming back was really just like, send me back, give me some time so I could make this light brighter, so I could give them my presence. And that way, if I do have to go, at least they could still have my presence with them, right? Through the love.
Now that you're back,
Mhm.
Do you have the time and the energy to give the love like you know that you want to be doing? Is it possible?
Yes, it is. So it's possible because I make decisions so this is something I struggled with. When I came back, I had like, my heart felt like it just opened up to love so much more. But there was like, I had a smaller capacity to like deal with shallow things, you know? Like I didn't want to take part in conversations if we weren't present. You know what I mean? So by cutting that out of my life, like cutting out all of the things that I'm not present with, it made room to be present with the things that I do want to be present with. So, for example, I was saying to my dad one day, I was talking to him and I said, um, okay, I'm starting to think about going in the shower and stuff. Like my mind is starting to think about, I'm like, we need to like get off the phone because now you're talking to me and I'm not being present. I'm starting to think about what I have to do. So it's either I let go of the thoughts of having to go shower and get ready and all of that and be present with you, or I get off the phone with you and I go do what I have to do. So that's kind of how my mind works now. It's like if I'm doing something and the children come up to me, I say to them, I cannot be present with you right now. Do you want me to be present or you want me to pretend? I know it sounds rough, but it's like, do you want me to pretend or you want my okay, you want my full attention? I need 2 minutes. I need 2 minutes to finish this because I need to be present in this because whatever I'm doing here, it deserves my love. It deserves my attention. So I could fully, whether I'm responding to somebody or whatever the case is, they're getting all of me, right? I'm done with that. I'm going to turn, I'm going to deal with my whoever it is, my family, whatever it is I'm supposed to do. I'm going to go and be fully present with that. It's way better. I actually feel I could sleep every night I go to sleep. I know I've loved. I know I've given, I've done that. So yeah, it's a lot. It's better with my clients. It's better with everything. Like I'm doing a drawing. If I'm not fully there, that's gonna wait until next month or whenever, so I could, give all of myself to it. And the thing about it is like love is the only thing that lasts. Everything will fade away and everything will be forgotten unless love is that ingredient in there. Meaning you've put your essence, your spirit, like you're in there, right? Unless you're in with that thing that you're creating or relationship that you're building, it's going to fade away really, really quick.
You mentioned that it is real on the other side.
Mhm.
So, if that is true, and I'm not disagreeing with you, what is this side? Is it a dream or a simulation?
Well, what I can say, it's not so much that if it's a dream or a simulation, ah, everything is everything is in the mind. And I will say right now that I do not have the words. I've been trying to write out a lot of what I have experienced there and to make it make sense here. And I haven't been able to necessarily like articulate the things in like the best way, possible. I'm going to try to answer your question. When I was there, I came to understand it's like you're in a place of truth. So when you come to this realm, there are things that are set up that are not truth, right? So you try your best, or let's say I try my best to stay like plugged in to what I remember while I was there. So what I know is that everything is, we could say in these are the best words I could think of. If you want to say we exist in the mind of God. Does that make sense? I don't know if people believe in God or not, but
So you're
that's the
saying
best way that I've found to say it.
so you're saying that we exist in the mind of God.
Yeah.
Would you also say that we are all God collectively, or a piece of God is within us?
Yes. So what I would say, I think when I came back, like the first like about 2 weeks when I came back after this experiences, I I was still going in and out of my body. It was very hard to stay here. As much as I wanted to stay here for my children and my husband in particular, the feeling of this realm was just very gross, to be honest with you. That's the best way to, it was just very like yuck, like social media, the things I was seeing, that, oh, it was just like, I don't even want to touch this. Like, part of me wants to be back there, but I'm like, but the people I love are here, And it took a while to settle down in my body. But during that time, I had a lot of like, almost felt like recalibration, right? So I was able to, I would hear scriptures and stuff in my mind, and I would go look it up, and I would, open up to those areas wherever, whatever came to me. And then I would be able to understand, exactly. And I've read some of these scriptures before, but I never understood it the way that I do now. And just to answer your question, because you mentioned God. So I understood from when I was there and coming back here. I'm going to try my best to articulate this for you, but I understood that the idea of God, or let's say the idea of Christ, right? We talk about Christ a lot. I understand that the idea of Christ is the first, it is the first perfected plan of God. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you the example. Let's say if you're sitting here and you're saying, oh, I want to go make dinner, a lovely dinner for my wife, right? And you have ideas. They're going through, oh, maybe I should make a macaroni pie. Maybe I should make some Indian food. Maybe I should make, and you're thinking, right? And you're going through all these different thoughts. And then, bingo, I found the perfect one. I know exactly what she's going to love. I know exactly what ingredients I need. So this whole plan is formulated in your head. It's perfect. Then you put your action towards accomplishing that plan. That perfected plan is the perfect mind of God. It is the perfect, and this is what we actually refer to this as Christ, or Christ consciousness. And I remember when I was thinking, oh my, this is going to be so hard to explain to people, because I'm looking for words to make sense of concepts that I have never been taught. You understand? So it's difficult to find ways. But when you say, are we all God? It's yes and no. And this is the example I want to give to you. Tell me if this makes sense, right? Think of a tree, because this is what I was given. I get things in visions, right? So this is what I was given. See a tree and make this tree conscious. And this tree will say, I want to have other trees like me, right? I want to multiply. I do not want to be alone. I want to multiply and have other trees like me. So this tree now is going to grow and it's going to bear fruit. And in this fruit is going to have seeds. Now the fruit will fall to the ground, and the fruit will, maybe decay, and then the seeds will end up growing and so on. But not all of the seeds will become trees. Not all the seeds will become mature trees. So if you think of it this way, that God is the tree, what we call God is the tree, and then the children of God, if you want to think of it that way, or let's say the first fruit that came from this tree is Christ. And this, remember, we're going back to what is the plan, right? The plan is, I want to have more like me. I want to create more of myself. I want to expand. I want to be more, right? So the idea is to have a fruit, and in that fruit will contain the like the encoding to become that tree. That's what's in a seed, right? That seed has packaged within it the encoding to become a tree. Although it has it, like if you open an apple, you can't say, I have 10 apple trees just because you see 10 seeds. You're going to say, oh, I have the potential of having 10 apple trees here. It all depends on the fertilization, the water and all of this stuff, the light and proper environment, right? For you to be able to get that tree. And at a certain point, if you're able to grow these trees, you will not be able to tell which tree was here first, which is the parent tree. Like in an orchard, if an orchard had to just naturally, grow, you can't really tell which is the first tree if they all grow to maturity, unless somebody would say, no, before when I was here, there was only one tree here and now there's these others, right? So that's kind of like how, that's the best way that I found to explain um, how I now understand God and Christ in us. So you have the ability to grow into the full maturity of God, right? You have the ability to go through all of your life experiences and mature into the perfected mind of God, if you want to say it that way, right? If we're going to put it that way. But there are some seeds that will definitely not. You get what I'm saying? There are some seeds that will rot. There are some seeds that will fall along the side and get eaten by birds. It's not every seed that will grow into that, but every seed has the potential. And love is the fertilizer, right? Like that light that um, I saw the water under the ground, and I saw roots of tree like dig into the water, and I saw the sun shining, and I saw like it was all energy, and I saw that this tree was receiving energy through the branches and the leaves, and then I saw the tree was receiving energy through the water, and then I saw that the water and the sun were the same thing, and it's all love, right? This is what I was trying to say. Like love is actually the substance of everything. Like love is not just an emotion. It is like life itself.
Since you've been on the other side and here, do you think it's
Mhm.
impossible to have the capacity of love on this side that you felt on the other side? Because
Impossible. No, I think it is. I believe the reason I was sent back was because of this message. I think if I didn't have within my I think if I didn't have within my heart this knowing that I now know, I don't think I would have been allowed to be back. I don't. I'm really trying not to be emotional right now, but I honestly, I have to spend like the rest of my life trying my best to help whoever will have ears to hear understand this message. It is, and it just sucks the way that love has become a word that we just throw around because it's so much bigger than LOVE, it's so much bigger. And I'm going to share this scripture with you because I was really saying like to Most High, this is so big. And, this word love has become such this, is just thrown around. So, you know, just by anybody, friend. Oh, I love this car. I love this thing. I love this show. And I'm like, it should be easy to explain, but it's like, seems like the most complicated thing to explain because you're trying to give people back all of the worth of what love is when we've brought it down to so little. And I had this really like a heaviness on me, and I heard this scripture that says, one plants, the other water, but I give the increase. And what I understood by that is that some people, in their spirit, they already know, they already heard what I'm talking about. Some people would never have heard it before. And so for the people who've never heard it before, my words will be the first time. It's like little seeds, first going into their heart. Then other people who've heard it before, I'm just coming along and watering it. But at the end of the day, it is the spirit within all of us that's going to say, this resonates with me. I believe it. And they're going to use it to like really amplify all of their life. So that has helped me to not have that pressure of how do I bring the message of this world into this world. And it's really all I could do is say it and demonstrate it in my life, but it's for each of us to feel it within our core and say something about this is totally right. And my spirit is saying yes. And I'm going to live the rest of my life in this way. I think we absolutely have the capacity to love. Absolutely. Fully, for sure.
Well, I think it's great that we have people like you sharing this experience because most people wouldn't even understand what you're trying to say. And I think even you wouldn't understand it unless you had the
100%,
experience.
100%. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So
I say it all the time. All the time I say it, that I don't even know if I would be able to understand this message if I had heard me, which is why I'm always so humble trying to share it, because I am so much depending on the hearts of people to be a little bit open, to be able to feel it, because I know that I don't have any power, to like put my experience into somebody. I just have these words, so
there are many experiencers that will experience extreme bliss and acceptance. Did you experience any of that as well?
um I did not. I did not. All I experienced was um like this weird knowing. It was like, I don't know how to explain it. I wouldn't really call it blissful because, you know, knowledge is not necessarily blissful, but it's this assurity, like I definitely have no fear of death, you know, in the sense that what's on the other side, I'm not afraid of that at all. I don't even want to say I have a fear, to be honest with you. My only concern is accomplishing what I need to accomplish here, right? And so I have an extreme peace about the other side, and also I have I do want people to know that there really is nothing to fear on the other side. What you have to be concerned about is, it's so crazy to me that we're afraid of the other side, when in the other side there is nothing to fear there. The only thing that will make you feel fear in the other side is when you realize what you've done on this side, right? It's nothing over there. It's just that you have to face, on the other side, you have to face the truth of yourself, your own consciousness. You have to face that. You're standing in the mirror of truth. You're surrounded by truth, right? You're going to see yourself, and all the lies you say to yourself here, you cannot, there is no place, like lies have no place over there. It's just, you're just standing in truth. So this realm where we are right now, if you want to be afraid here, and be afraid, like, am I being authentic? Am I, like, try your best to look into the mirror of truth here. While you're alive here, do that, because that's what you're going to experience over there. And some of us get a chance to come back and some of us don't, right? So while you're here, deal with all of the demons, get all that stuff out of you here, because over there, you're going to have to face them. And this is the place that you get rid of them.
Is it possible that experiencing and learning about this love is your sole purpose during this incarnation, but it may not be everybody's?
I could say definitely that I believe that it is I believe it is everything to me. It could definitely be my sole purpose. However, I do believe that because of what I have experienced on the other side, and all I can do is live up to the light that I've been given, right? And all somebody else can do is live up to the light that they have within themselves. So if how I'll answer it is to say, like, if now I know this, I have to move with what I believe and I'm convinced of, and what I'm convicted by. I have to move with it. If someone else has absolutely no knowledge about this, I don't think that when they go on the other side that they would have to give account for that. You understand what I mean? I don't think it's going to be something they'll have to give account for. I had to give account for it because, like I said, when I was there, I was fully aware that this is the reason I came and I hadn't done it. So hence why I'm doing this now, right? But I don't think that anyone is ever going to use, I don't like the word guilty, but let's just say, I don't think anyone is going to be guilty of something that was not already within themselves, because what you're facing on the other side is your consciousness. your own conscious, right? That's what it's you. You're dealing with your own, all of your own knowings. So if there's a truth that you've come to in this realm and you've denied it, and you've lived your whole life denying that truth, when you go to the other side, you have to account for the fact that you've been denying that truth your whole life. And you won't be able to say, no, I wasn't. You can't lie to yourself. It's impossible. So, that's just how it is. So if someone has never had this talk or heard anything about love or whatever the case is, and they're totally oblivious of it, then I don't think it's going to be an issue for them on the other side. But I mean, people have been talking about love for a long time. It's kind of impossible at this point to move through this realm and not hear even a love song, I don't know, something talking about real love.
Well, whether it's all of our soul purpose or not, I think you've given us a great gift today. And I know that I should be doing better just by hearing what you've said.
Well, that is my I've accomplished I've accomplished something, right? And whether I live for another, 100 years, or if I go tomorrow, I'm telling you, like, I feel, I know it already. It's so good to know within yourself that you won't have regrets. So you asked about that. What is the peace or bliss? I'm living it, right? It's so good to know that when I close my eyes and I go off to the other side permanently, let's say next time that happens, um, I won't have this regret at all, right? I won't have it. So, and the only way to make sure I don't have it is to keep loving every day. Right? And guess what? It's not a chore to love, right? It's not a chore to love, because if you don't want to be present in something, just don't do it. Just simply don't, because it's not counting for anything. It doesn't count if you show up and pretend like you're there and you're not there. It's better to just don't go to the party. Don't go to family dinner if you're going to be there and totally be on your phone, totally like not. Why are you doing it? You're living, you see, it's the fakeness, this the fake thing that we've all been just like, well, you got to do it. You got to go visit that person. You got to make that call. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't stop. Love yourself enough to start, like, um love yourself enough to start being true, about who you are, where you want to spend your time. And if there's something wrong, like if you feel guilty that you're not going to go, let's say, visit your mom, then how about you deal with that problem, right? How about you deal with, why don't I want to go visit mom? Is there some unresolved things happening there? And then just deal with it. Then after, you get to the place where you want to go visit mom. And so that's just the thing. When we pretend to love people, we never get to the root of why we don't actually love them. And what good is that?
Well, after watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
Of course, 100% I am.
What's the
My
best,
life's purpose.
well, what's the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach me is probably from my website. If you go to my website, then you could just contact me via that way. You want me to give that information?
Sure.
Yeah. So you would go to iamabama.com, and then you just go to the contact area, and then you could email me and I would respond that way. I also have a YouTube channel, which is Yandea DMS Official. So yeah, those are like the best ways to contact me.
Do you have anything that you're working on that you want people to know about?
Currently, I have a mentorship program that I'm doing. I have a mentorship program that I'm doing. If anybody feels, I guess, called to work with me or to have me mentor them through love or any of the other things. I mean, through my website, you could see all the different things that I do. There's actually a set mentorship program with different things that's there. So that would be fine. And what else? Yeah, one thing I can say, I didn't touch on all the different things I experienced, but one thing the last thing I experienced when I was leaving, before I came back and stayed in my body, was loose ends. Loose ends. Some of us have been given things supernaturally, whether it's an idea for a book or something, but it's not just a money making thing. It is not saying anything's wrong with making money, but it's actually something that within yourself, that idea, that came from somewhere, like we've received these gifts, right? Things to manifest in this realm. And we've allowed being distracted by other things, not even things that we're loving, right? To take away that attention. So we haven't completed songs, we haven't completed books, we haven't completed projects. And I saw that very clearly before I came back. Loose ends, right? The importance of tying up loose ends and not just getting into all of these other things without finishing the things that we've been given to manifest here. And so I do have 2 books that I'm going to be releasing soon. One is called Happy Rising Spirit, and the other one is called Born Again.
Besides being able to understand scripture more deeply, did you get any other gifts as a result of your NDE?
Well, all of the gifts that I had before my near-death experiences they're all like through the roof now because I'm present. It's like being present is the magic ingredient, I am so present when I'm with when I'm with my clients now that I work with, that it's just way more powerful. I pick up on things that I would not have picked up on before because, maybe I was not fully there, right? So listening, I hear a lot clearer now, like I mentioned before, like I do readings and different, I do a lot of energy work, and I'm just able to, it just feels like I could, like someone would be talking to me and I can feel them and I could hear what they're wanting to say, right? So it's like I'm just very still and I'm giving them all of my attention, everything. I'm giving my heart, I'm giving my entire being in this moment to this person. And everything they're saying and what they're not saying is like right in front of me. And then so because of that, I can help. I could truly actually help in like the deepest way, you know? So that's, I haven't gotten any new gifts. It's just everything is just on another level now.
These gifts that you had prior to your NDE, have they been with you since birth? Or did you have some other spiritually transformative experience that was the catalyst for them?
Well, no, it's been since birth. My grandfather and my great grandmother, his mom, they were healers also. So I come from a line, I don't know if anybody else was before them, but I know I come from, that's kind of like my lineage. My grandfather was a healer, and his mom also. They both had, like, his mom was more known for like seeing the future and stuff like that, and he was more known for like actually physically healing people, interpreting dreams, and and so on. So that's the line that I come from. I was raised by my grandfather until, well, my grandparents until around age 7, and he is the one who explained a lot of what I was experiencing, and he's the one who, basically said to me, well, this is what you have, and this is how, you utilize it. This is why these things happen to you. And even now, my connection to my grandfather and great grandmother after the near death experience actually is another thing that is very, very strong, because I know that I know that they are still here, you know, and so I could feel them a lot more because I know that it is the love that we're connected through, right? It's in our blood, right? It's in our blood. And so I just feel them. I feel them a lot. And I know that when I'm working with clients, they're with me because we're never we're never not connected to the people that we actually love. It doesn't matter if that person has gone on, you know. It literally, nothing separates love. Love can't be separated by time or space. So whether you're in this realm or that realm, if you develop a strong, let's say, a cord of love, a strong connection of love with that person, what can separate you? Nothing can separate you. You can still have that experience. And right now I'm exchanging, right, energy with you. We're talking, but we're exchanging that energy between you and I in this conversation. And when someone goes into another realm, you continue exchanging that energy if love is there, right? And so many of us are mourning people who have passed, and the people who have passed are literally like saying, if only you're aware that I am still here with you. You know, I am still here. You could feel them, right? You could feel them, but sometimes we're so used to wanting to see someone physically that we forget about what their presence felt like, you know, or feels like. So I would say lean into what that person feels like or felt like, you know, when they're around, and you'll feel them. They're still there. That love is still there. And love is something that you could continue to grow, right? You can continue to grow that love. You know, it doesn't have to fade away.
Yandea, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
One last positive message.
Well, I know you've given us a lot already, but I'm trying to
Yeah.
get one more out of you.
Well, I think the message that I want to leave, what's coming to me right now, is that it's very important for us to know, it's very important for us to all understand and to know that we are absolutely not alone, regardless of how we feel, whether there's people, you know, physically there with us or whatever we may be going through. It's very important for us to know that we are not alone. And I feel like right now there are a lot of people who feel that loneliness for whatever reason, whether someone has passed on or there is, you know, maybe a breakdown, like a relationship breakdown or a distance between, you know, parents and children or whatever the case may be. But we are never alone. We have a higher knowing, right? We have a higher knowing. And whenever we move away from the knowing that we are connected and we are one with source and we are eternal beings, whenever we move away from that knowing, we start feeling loneliness because we're disconnecting from the truth of who we actually are. So I would say, if you're feeling alone right now, maybe just, you know, remember that in these times you can really center yourself and just gather yourself, you know, and instead of being alone, you could just be all one, you know, bring yourself together and maybe start looking at the word alone as all one. You know, be one with yourself, and very quickly, if you even, with the intention of not feeling alone anymore but feeling centered and aligned with your highest self, that feeling is going to dissipate very quickly, because you're fragmented, so you're feeling alone because you're separating yourself. You understand what I mean? You're separating yourself. Bring yourself back together.
Yandea, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.